first speaker here is Marc Dillon, here. Marc is almost a native Finn. You've been living in Finland like 17 years.
17 winters.
Yeah. So, somewhat few winters. That's true. That's true. He works as an advisor in Eficode, helping companies to first understand and then adapt modern software methodologies and tools. His motto is build people to build value. Marc will speak about DevOps, and that's highly complex topic, but in very soft and nice way.
Thank you.
So no wonder his title is DevOps for Executives. Marc, please.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you, everybody. I'm sorry to disappoint you. I am not Janne from Veikkaus, who couldn't make it today. I'm an alternate speaker. I've done a lot of public speaking and a lot of work in this topic. I have been in software and IT for going on 32 years now, 31 and a half or something. I've seen all of the things, and when I look at any new thing that comes or goes, it's like, okay, I see what you're doing, I know where it came from, I might not know what all the names are, but okay, I know where this fits in great things. What I'm going to give you today is, there's kind of two halves to this presentation. One of the things that I'm working on, this is a work in progress in my kind of life and some of my current thinking. I'm going to give you a few things. I'm trying to start to get a common vocabulary that we can talk to anybody from the C-suite, executives, to developers, and have a common language and a common understanding of what are we talking about and why are we doing this. I'm also, I believe that you don't have a technical problem. You have a cultural problem. So the second half of this, I'm going to talk a little bit about culture. Once again, I'm a lead consultant at Eficode. I've been at Eficode a little more than a year. I've been in Finland for 17 years. I had a dozen years at Nokia. I built a company up, a little thing called Yola that is still going on at the moment. I got to work with some amazing people. I'm kind of a 1.0 guy. I've always been around building the product, getting it up and running, getting the customer validation, getting everything ready to go, and then saying, okay, I'll go help somebody do the next one. I do also understand a lot about how to take the product situation that you're in and get it into these kind of state-of-the-art practices. I found Eficode, I was a customer of Eficode before I joined, and I just kind of realized every touch point I had with this company made me want to join it, and it became my home now. So one of the first things that I find when I talk to customers, we mostly have inbound. People come to us in order to understand how to do better software and how to solve problems. They may say, we have a tool problem, or we have a problem with our paywall, or we have a problem with unpredictable software deliveries, or we have a quality problem, or we have a this, or we have a that. And then when I start talking to the employees, everybody is too busy to improve anything or to do anything. A lot of this comes from having KPIs that are pushing them in certain directions, but oftentimes it comes from having a culture that doesn't support the needs of the human and the psychological safety of the people that are involved, and having the time and the ability to do things in a good manner once and then not having to repeat those, or do them in a repeatable manner that can be automated and steered and maintained. But I talk a lot about the competition to my customers and say, okay, you need to understand that if you can't do certain things, your competition will run right past you. There's a book called Accelerate, which is pretty ubiquitous in the DevOps land. It talks about 4 key metrics: the lead time and the cycle time. How long does it take from a customer idea to get deployed? Cycle time. How long does it take from the time a developer picks up a ticket until that's deployed? Mean time between failures. If we deploy something and it breaks something, how often are we breaking production? And mean time to recovery. If we break something, how fast can we get back from that? So these are some pretty big numbers, but you can understand them. If we just look at the lead time from developer to deployment, 440 times. So if this book and this research looked at companies in 4 different categories of capabilities and said, okay, some companies can deliver 440 times faster. If you think about delivering a few times a day or delivering in 6 months, and all of a sudden, okay, that makes perfect sense. Recovery from downtime and failure rate from changes. If you look at all your social media things and you notice some funny little feature pops up, and then everybody starts complaining about it, and then the next thing you know that it's just kind of a part of your daily life, or maybe sometimes every now and again it disappears. That's because they're doing things in a way that allows them to test. It's called canaries. You have the canary in the coal mine, and either it lives or it dies, and then if it dies, you pull another one out, and oh, that didn't make it either, and you pull okay. So, or you have things called blue-green deployments, where you deploy something to a small number of customers, you see if it worked. If it doesn't, you just turn it off. So time to recovery for things is flipping a switch these days. And the exposure for failures is a set of customers, or it could be the team next door to you, or it could be the QA team, or it could be it could be the call center. So what these numbers kind of mean across 4 different categories. Like I said, if you're delivering multiple times a day, good. You can respond to a customer need and test and validate if that customer behaves the way that you expect them to, or receives the value that you want in the same day, versus some companies are still taking months, 6 months, or a year. I don't care if you're a hardware company or a software company, you can still essentially validate changes in real time. As soon as you have this idea, you can find out if it affects customers and they work the way that you wish. Lead time for changes, same idea. And I talked about this time to restore service and change failure rate. I'll talk a little bit more about those in some other cases. Another way that we look at DevOps is, what are the waste states? Are there things that people are doing that are not contributing to creating value for customers? Are there things that are happening that are creating busy work for your most valuable people, where you've got your greatest developer and he's fixing production bugs all the time because he's the only guy that knows how it works, instead of building capable features or architectures that could work across the whole organization? Companies that are looking to grow, I'm interested in top-line growth companies. If you work for a company that is just working on optimizing efficiency or bottom line or profit, and the only thing that they talk about is profit, I'm a little less interested than a growth company where they want to understand, how can I get closer to the customer? How can I validate value from a customer faster? How can I fail fast? If the customer doesn't act in the way that I want, how can we tear it down and try something else? How can we try multiple experiments a day in different districts and find out which customers respond to the change that we want? That's the stuff that I'm really interested in, and that's the stuff that we're trying to enable at Eficode and in this whole DevOps thing. So this is an interesting picture, and if you're at all around software development, you've seen all of these things. So it starts with this little one called plan, right? So we plan something, and hopefully we got some valuable input for that. We code, we build, we do a lot of continuous testing. Notice that it's the biggest part there for some emphasis. We release, we deploy, we operate, and we monitor what's in production. It's funny, that's a small subset of the activities, but still, there's only one activity on that board that generates any value. That's called coding. If you look at a value stream that starts with getting customer feedback, understanding the feedback, prioritizing the feedback, breaking down the items into work items that can be worked on, dealing with the backlog, getting into a sprint, getting the things coded, tested, deployed, and then understanding the value that comes back. Still, there's only one thing that generates the value, and that's writing the code. And then the only thing that realizes the value is that operations department. We talk about DevOps all the time in terms of let's help the developers, but it's the operators, it's the operations department that are actually realizing that value that's created in that one step. Interesting stuff. So here is a look at science. And there's a book called Structure of Scientific Revolutions, and it talks about we do science, and then every now and again we have an anomaly, like somebody spills the rubber on the stove and it vulcanizes, and they call it a Goodyear tire, and it moves on for the rest of it. But we do normal science, and every now and again we have anomalies, but what we're really dealing with these days is this 5 o'clock crisis. You know, I've lived through 2 in this year, and there's more. And then there's revolution, which is taking all of these kind of things and moving them into a new direction, and then changes of paradigms. If none of these crises ever happened, your current ways of working or your old ways of working would be fine. but because that we recognize that crises will happen all the time. Either you get good at change or you lose and you fail. I learned the first continuous deployment that I saw was in the mid-1990s from a software company for wireless companies in California. I had the biggest customer, and they didn't want change ever. Every time that we would touch something, they would touch something else and break the whole system and blame us for it, but that's a different story. The second largest customer wanted essentially continuous deployment. They wanted to have the latest code and the hottest stuff all of the time so that whenever a change would happen, it would be manageable, it would be small enough that they could deal with it and move on. So this like change rate, do you get good at change and have small failures that you can deal with and roll back, or do you go for these big bang changes that then end up costing a lot of downtime and not really having the understanding of how to roll them back? So, a couple of crises. There was, I heard this at the DevOps conference last year. We had a customer and insurance company, and this is North America. And what happened was the call center went nuts in the morning, and the phones are ringing off the hook, and they knew that there had been a flood in the south. So operations manager goes and looks and says, what's going on? And it's like, well, we have evidently an abnormal number of vehicles that were affected in this flood. I don't remember if it was like a stadium that flooded or something like that. But the call center is on fire because unhappy customers cannot file online insurance claims for flooded automobiles. Whew. Okay. But fortunately, this company had been through a DevOps transformation, and in the same day, their developers created a flag called wet car. And they turned wet car on, and they started writing code under this switch called wet car. And then they said, hey, to their buddies in the next team, turn on wet car and see if you can go file an insurance claim against your car. Okay, cool. We better tell the claims adjusters not to take those. But we're in production with this code already because other people can see it behind this little thing called wet car. So let's turn wet car on for the QA department and they can test. Okay, let's turn wet car on for the call center, and now the call center can use our online claim form in order to file the claims for the customers and validate that the change that we made today, because the call center was flooded this morning. Okay, now let's turn on wet car for a small amount of customers in the affected area. Or let's do a search. Are people searching for flooded automobile on the website? And let's turn the thing on for them and send them a message. So then they turn on wet car in the same day for that region, and now all of a sudden the call center stuff goes down, and hey, it's 2 o'clock, we can have a coffee break. So that is one way to look at DevOps, and how do you do this? It's like, well, other companies are already in this space, and we are the kind of company that helps build these kind of capabilities, and we can do it a step at a time. So another customer, COVID hit, and we know that all the entertainment industry suffered, and the bars and all the restaurants and things suffered a lot. And what did they have in their back rooms? They had a bunch of perishables that were spoiling. And in the case of the alcohol, there's a deposit on all of that stuff, and then there's unsellable product that's in all of it. So then what happens is the bar owners or the managers, they go to the customer portal for where they get their alcohol, and there's a flashing light there that says, bad beer, click here. Same story. Same exact kind of story. They were able to roll out, within minutes, really, within the same day. Okay, we have a customer need. You go to the customer site and you see this thing that says, you have this problem, click here. And the next thing that happens is all the way at the other end of their value chain, a guy shows up in a truck to pick up the stuff. And the next thing they did was they hooked his GPS so you would know what time he was going to show up. So this is the kind of stuff that DevOps can deliver to customers effectively today, and there's paths to be able to do this. So when I start a digital transformation within a company, or a DevOps transformation, agile transformation, I don't really care. When I start trying to help a company to be more efficient, the first thing that we do is we look at 2 endpoints. I like to look the furthest to that we possibly can. Where do you deploy to customers and get feedback from those? And where do you get the inbound ideas from business development, or it could even be defect management or something like that. But the first thing we do is we optimize for flow. If you can take an item into your backlog and measure how long it takes for a customer to be able to use it, that's the first metric, lead time. If you can't do that, there's your North Star. You pick that one and say, we need to be able to measure that, to be able to understand how long does it take for us to actually be able to do work, deploy it, and understand, is the customer buying it or not? Is the customer using it? Are they getting value from it or not? There's a bit of awkwardness that happens in rolling Scrum into new teams, where when you start doing Agile, all of a sudden all of your problems rise to the top, because whatever your problems are, that's the most important thing to do first. And the next thing that happens is some people are left out. You've got somebody that has way too much work to do on the team and somebody that has way too little work to do on the team. Maybe you have designers that don't really have design work to do or something. But the first thing you do is you optimize for flow. Can the team take input and make output? And if you can do that and you can measure it, then you can figure out what to improve next. I didn't necessarily say to improve that next, but then you can figure out what to improve next. The next thing is feedback. So the highest performing teams in the world get customer feedback themselves. That means the software development team. That means that feature that they created. They understand how the customer is using it. They understand, is it working or not when they have deployed it. And these are mindset kind of things that need to be taken into account. And then the third way, the kind of holy grail, is that teams feel safe to be able to have some level of experimentation. Cycles can happen very, very quickly. It's not just you have a 2-week sprint, so you deliver once every 2 weeks. It means you have a piece of value to deliver, and you want to validate it in the customer asynchronously as soon as you believe it might be ready in a safe and controlled manner that you can turn off if it didn't work, or if it does work, you can turn it on in more places. Thank you for nodding your head. Yes, please. So when I talk to companies about these, my next favorite thing that I've heard from a customer in the last year is some of their directors were, I do not want you building enablers. We get paid to build features. That's where the value is. And the first thing that I respond to this, depending on the psychology in the room, is, well, the impediments, that's the most important thing for you to build first. The enablers. If you build the enablers to be able to deploy quickly, to be safely, if you build the enablers to be able to test in an automated and repeatable fashion, if you build the capability to be able to get customer feedback to the development team so that they can steer their development as they go along, then all of a sudden you reach a much higher level of performance than you were able to do before. Higher level of performance, then look at these things from an end-to-end perspective. I talked about flow in the previous slide, where how does something enter the company? Where does the idea come from? And then how is it deployed? And how do you connect those dots and understand end-to-end? In some enterprises, this can be really challenging, but still, you can start at either end and work your way in. This is called value streaming. So all of these things result in, there's this thing called NPS, the Net Promoter Score. Does the company say that they would, or do the customers of the company promote that company or not? How likely are you to promote this to a friend? You've all seen these kind of surveys. So when we start reacting to customers faster and giving them more attention and validating our ideas, then we will get a higher Net Promoter Score, which returns in more sales. We can get fewer we can look at call center data and make changes and react to things in more real time. We get better customer retention. So this is kind of the benefits and the whys of DevOps. But I think, like I mentioned before, you don't have a technical problem. All the stuff that I just described, any company can do. When the Mars rover landed, the first thing it did was a software update. You are not a special case. Okay? Now, some words about culture. I guess I have 5 minutes or 10. I have 10 minutes. Okay. So Culture to me is something that a company can't demand a culture. Culture is an emergent property. We could all do something together intensely all day. We could have a team building with this group of people, and by the end, some kind of culture is going to emerge. Now, that was an emergent property, but that doesn't mean if we did an exploratory course where we were climbing ropes and trees, and all of a sudden I had to help somebody to get across, from one tree to another, we might end up with a very different culture than if we sat and played poker all day or something like that. So you can still steer a culture, but you can't demand what a culture is. You have to create an environment for culture. So let me describe one way. So see if any of this sounds familiar to you. And I'm sorry, I'm going to use a bad Finnish accent here, but rally English is really one of my favorite things in the world. So we, the directors of the company, we met in the boardroom, and we were involved in creating the strategy. And after we created the strategy, we were contributing to the strategy, and we understood it well. And we were very committed to the strategy. So then we went to the auditorium, and we presented the strategy to the employees. After a while, we realized they didn't really seem to understand the strategy very well. They didn't really seem to be very committed to it either. I wonder why. Because they weren't involved and they didn't contribute to it. So the key to strategy, now there's more heads that are nodding. So the key to culture, to strategy, is the involvement of people. And it can be at different levels. I've seen CEOs that say, this is my company, I know what I want, and I'm going to lead this, but okay, let's follow this idea, and oh look, people generated some ideas that we hadn't thought of. And I've seen people do it the other way, where the culture is this and the strategy is that, and then where do those people end up? They end up in a different company. All right? So, levers of change and things. There's a lot of different documents and points of view on levers of change. But I say you don't have a technical problem. You may have technical symptoms, and you may have things that need to change within the technical landscape of your company, but really the culture is what eats the strategy for breakfast. So if we are able to get people into a state where they feel psychologically safe to be vulnerable, right? So I don't know if you saw the last speech downstairs, the guy talking about failures many, many times, but it's kind of like if you have a culture where you can be vulnerable. I mean, do you tell your coworkers if you're having a bad day or you've got a crapola? No. Good. And then we know, okay, Timo's going to need some help today, or I'm going to be there for you, right? So, that's having psychological safety and some level of vulnerability. That way we can depend on each other, because if I feel safe enough to say, you know what, I did something really stupid today, and I'm not in the best shape to work today. And if I tell my colleagues that, then I can depend that they're going to come, and they're at least going to empathize or sympathize or make a joke to me or something else. Exactly. So what happens, right? If you do not feel psychologically safe, you hide that stuff, no matter what it is. So there's Western organizational cultures are one of my favorite ways to look at this. And by the way, one of the reasons I joined Eficode was a couple of years ago. They published something that said the DevOps trend of the year a couple of years ago was psychological safety. And it's like, okay, that's the kind of place where I want to work in, a place where people understand that. So Western organizational culture, on the left, we have pathological organizations. You all know what this is. This is command and control. This is hierarchy. This is all academic stuff. This is shoot the messenger on the left side, right? So shoot the messenger, and it says failure leads to scapegoating, but I think it leads to blame storming. So it leads to somebody gets blamed. Bureaucratic organizations, in the middle, failure leads to justice. But a generative organization, an organization that is really performance-oriented and really internally human growth-oriented, says, okay, so something happened. What can we learn from it? How can we support the people that did it? How can we work together and use this as a strength going forward? So we're in the end game now. Many things go like this. You're familiar with the shock, denial, anger, depression types of things that we have in crises. When we try to do changes in organizations, we go through the same thing. And the tough ones, the strong organizations, they work through it and they come out with a better, faster, more psychologically safe, better culture organization at the end. Those that don't, go a bit further down. You can always tell there's some schadenfreude or something. So, a few closing statements. First off, DevOps is not many things. DevOps is not automation. It's not a guy on a team or a human on a team. It's not a separate team. It's not a strategy. And it's not just doing test automation, although if it's only test automation, at least you've got that. But DevOps it's a mindset. And it's not even a culture. The culture is what you make of it, but it's a mindset. And the mindset is we can take ideas and test them with our customers today. It's that easy. We can take this new idea and we can test it today. And there's some silly Dilbert here that came along with the slide. What color do you want that database pipeline? Mauve has the most RAM. Okay, so here's your takeaways, okay? Work towards a healthy culture for yourself, for your company, or seek one if you must. They're out there. There are many companies that get this. This is a hot trend in the industry now. And if you are in management in a company and you're not facilitating this, you're going to lose people. Having clear change and clear change process. This means involving people in changes. It means listening and understanding. And once again, the penalty is competition and attrition, essentially. But it's such a positive thing to be able to do change with people together for the right ideas. Think about things in terms of the whole value stream. I've got 2.5 minutes, so I'll tell a quick story here. I happened to share a team with a gentleman about my age who worked on nuclear fast attack submarines as an electronic warfare officer. And when you join an organization like that, you are a non-useful body, a nub, until such point that you're able to answer questions like this. Say there's a molecule of air, and I've got a light bulb here. Tell me every system that we cross in between those. Right? That's a value stream. The sub must have been up and collected the air through the periscope, and then it went into one of the storage tanks, and from there it went through the air filtration systems into the turbocharger for the diesel, and through the intakes, and through the valves, and through the cylinder, and back out through the cylinder through the exhaust. Some of it went back through the turbo, but then that generator turned the fuel and the air into mechanical energy that went into the generator that then generated electricity, some of which was stored in those batteries, some of which went into this panel. From this panel it went to that panel, to that panel, to that switch, and to that light bulb, sir. Right? So that kind of thing. And if you can do that as a 20-year-old person on a nuclear fast attack submarine, your company's not a special case. You should be able to understand how value comes in and where that value gets generated, how it gets deployed, and how the feedback comes back through. And I put this here, finally, I left this here, which is once you've done those things, then you can think about prioritizing technical excellence, because you have to figure the first bits out first. Thank you.